Hello, and welcome to St Andrew's on this, the Feast of All Saints. I know that you've most probably tuned in order to follow Mass today, but unfortunately we had a technical error, not least that the power failed to the computer. But we are aware of how important these broadcasts are to many of you, and we want to make sure that we keep in touch with you, at least through this medium. During today's Mass, I was mindful of the beginning of lockdown way back in March. In the early days, I was celebrating Mass on my own at my kitchen table, and then latterly I was allowed to come into church and celebrate and broadcast from here. In all those days and weeks, I was mindful that I was not on my own, but in fact was surrounded by that great cloud of witnesses, the saints in heaven, but also I was directly connected to yourselves. Whether you were able to be in church or not, the fact is we are all part of one communion. We are part of each other. We are a fellowship of worship and praise. And so it was sad that we weren't able to broadcast today. I was mindful also, telling people, of my visit many years ago to a basilica in Kefalonia, built on the traditional Orthodox style. So way up, it's built as a cruciform shape, so it's in the shape of a cross, not only to remind us of Christ's redemption of us through the cross, but also that that good news spreads to all four corners of the world. Alongside that, at the top of the building, at the crossing, is a huge dome. And way up in that dome sits enthroned Christ Pantocrator. Christ, the creator of all, judge of all, and redeemer of all. Coming down the sides of that dome, he's surrounded by the great prophets of old, Moses, Elijah, etc. Those who proclaimed God's promises to his people. On the four pillars that support the dome are the four evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They are the ones who tell us of the fulfillment of the promises proclaimed by the prophets. And then around the walls of the church, high up, there are 12 pictures, friezes, and they depict scenes from the life of our Lord Jesus Christ. From the Annunciation of the message of the angel Gabriel to Mary, through the events of his life, through the presentation in the temple, eventually to his death and entering into hell to conquer the powers of sin and death, to his ascension, and eventually to Pentecost, and finally to the Dormition, the falling asleep of Our Lady. Below those scenes are the lives of the saints, so particular saints that were important to that community. And when I was there was one saint who no longer had never had hands or face, because the tradition of an icon writer is to do the whole of the icon, and the final part is to bring the icon to life with the hands and the face. I went back some days later, and the iconographer had been busy and had in fact completed the image of the saint. The significance of this great cosmic view in the Orthodox Church is not lost when you come to the bottom layer, because the bottom layer is plain. It's either painted drapes or it might be marble. And that's because the bottom layer is us. We are the living saints who complete the picture of the kingdom of heaven. We have our part to play. In our reading today from John, John says to us, you are children of God. It's not a distant hope, it's not something in the future, it's a present reality. And so how do we live as children of God? Well, we have to live according to the values of his kingdom. In our gospel today, we heard the Beatitudes. We were reminded of those who are blessed in the sight of God. They're not the same as those who may be blessed by worldly goods in this world, but they are those who have striven to do God's will in this life and have earned their heavenly reward. We're going into another lockdown, and chances are that churches will close again, regrettably. But we will continue to broadcast. We will continue to celebrate together, whether we're here physically in church or whether we celebrate from our homes. John also says that what we are to be has not yet been revealed. We're called to be living saints, icons of Christ in the world. And thinking back to that image of the painting of an icon on a wall, it had no face or hands. They developed later. Our prayer should be that through fulfilling the will of God, through living according to his kingdom values, the hands and the face might be our hands and face. That we, in celebrating the lives of the saints, remembering that they're not superhuman, they're just superhumans, super in that they have followed the way of God. Despite their faults, despite their weaknesses, all of that offered up to his glory. And that should be our calling too. May God richly bless you this All Saints' Day. And I pray that in the days ahead, through this next stage of lockdown, if you're not able to come to church, you will at least still be able to join us here through the media of the internet and celebrate and rejoice in our common faith. May God bless you.